Hello guys and gals, welcome back to another episode of Haunted Gaming. This time we're doing a mindfuck creepypasta called Dividend. Who would do this to these animals? The man wrinkled his nose in disgust as he walked past several clear glass tubes. Inside it was filled with a green liquid. An animal of different species were placed inside, wires and tubes coming out of their bodies. There were about 20 species just in this row alone. What was worse was that these animals were still alive. In their tubes you could see them squirming, as if they were begging for death. The man had seen enough and left the room. It disgusted him that such a place existed. Experimentation on animals had been prohibited for as long as he could remember. He upheld that law with a strongly clenched fist. In his company, no one would dare defy the law with him around. There must be some kind of rogue faction that's responsible. A couple of lowly scum were trying to get away with murder. He would see about that. The facility was primarily quiet, despite the loose animals that were running around. It didn't make him any happier that some of the animals were free. All these creatures were just completed experiments. They had gone through the process the others had. That was not even the end of it. He knew the mind track of the people in charge of the place would see to it that the animals undergo further experimentation. He would rather see everything here destroyed than to allow this illegal place to keep going through production. He had no idea where the people in charge of this place were. He had his suspicions that they were killed by something. He wanted to think good riddance. But he wouldn't get all the answers he's looking for from their corpses, so he pressed on, trying to find any signs of life outside the animals. His gun wasn't the best, but it did him good. The animals fell down quickly as he shot them, and they became hard, stiff as a board. He walked up to the door. It had a shining blue light. He stepped closer to it and it automatically opened, allowing him access inside. He was immediately repulsed by what he saw. A large winged animal lay in the room. He put his back on the wall and readied his gun. He looked over to the corner. He waited for the creature to do something, but it remained still. It looked almost as if it were dead. But that was proven wrong when the creature moved its tail. The creature was covered in a purple skin, hard and thick as anything, yet it looked charred and scraped. His former comrade must have been responsible. He cracked a small smile at this. He had lost contact with member after member of his team, and part of him worried he would be the only one remaining to complete the mission. It gave him a sense of hope that at least one person was still alive. The man moved along the shadows, practically hugging the walls, so that the purple beast didn't see him. It might be wounded, but he wasn't going to take any chances with that thing. He continued to move down the hallway, shooting down any experimented animal that would attack him. Many were insectoid in appearance, spiked and clawed. Some hung from the ceiling to attack, while others were more bold and tried to stomp on him. They were nothing compared to the winged animal he sneaked by earlier. Sometime later, he found himself in front of an elevator. The number didn't look familiar to him. He knew there were different levels to the facility, but this one, it was different. He narrowed his eyes and then widened them. He realized seeing an unlabeled area of the facility's map, one that didn't seem to have any apparent passageway to it. He reached over to open up the doors, when something struck him from behind. Startled, the man positioned himself for a fight and looked for his target. A group of small spiky creatures was crawling up towards him, their eyes glowing with murderous intent. He scowled and began to shoot them one by one. One of them jumped on top of him and knocked him to the ground. His gun went skidding across the floor. He cursed to himself and got back onto his feet. He ran towards his gun, but a large group of spiky animals crawled over it, preventing access. The man took a few steps back, gritted his teeth, and if he had to fight with his fists, he would. One of the animals lunged for him. He brought back his fist and punched, made direct contact with the head. The animal crashed into the ground, but it wasn't finished. It crawled at a quickened pace towards him. He picked up a broken beam made of thick steel and swung it down onto the creature. Its body exploded in a disgusting green coloration, which now stained the ground. He stared at the other creatures and lifted up the beam, preparing to make them meet the same fate. He heard something drip loudly. He looked over at the fallen animal. A yellowish substance was oozing out of its body. He flinched and almost fell like throwing up. The substance, gelatinous in its structure, moved out of the animal, making squishing noises as it made its way across the cold, hard ground. He tried to strike it, but the strange thing took to the air, floating just out of his reach, and yet moving ominously closer. He didn't know what it intended to do, but he sensed this thing was dangerous. The gelatinous yellow thing moved in quickly at him suddenly. The man moved to swing at the pole at it, but it simply dodged. Before he could react, the thing slammed against his body, and he found himself on his back once more. He tried pulling the creature off, but he was unable to get a grip. He writhed in pain, as the creature seemed to melt its way inside the body. Soon he could no longer see the creature, but he felt immense pain inside, and he clung his head tightly. He got up from the ground and walked weakly forward. He looked at the elevator. His eyes blinked as his vision began to get blurry. He stumbled towards the elevator's doors, which were now open, and he fell down onto his stomach, his hands just barely reaching the inside of the elevator. In his agony, he heard footsteps coming his way. He craned his head up to see who it was. The man widened his eyes. He knew who this man was. It was one of his comrades back at work. He trained with him before they went their separate ways. He must be here to help him. He rolled himself into his back and reached out towards his comrade, but the newcomer simply stared at him. The man withdrew his hand, confused by his comrade's behavior, but then he took a good look at his eyes. The irises and pupils had, in a split second, disappeared, making the eyes look like white marbles. "Do not worry," the comrade spoke. His voice was icy cold, to such a degree it seemed impossible for a human. "Everything is going well to our expectations. I must tend to my work, but do not despair. You will soon not feel the pain." The man's eyes shut tightly, and he screamed loudly. He collapsed onto the ground. The yellow creature re-emerged and began to cover his entire body. It devoured him, eating through his armor and suit. Soon all that remained was his armor, laying on the ground stained with blood and yellow stuff. Minutes later, a shadow loomed over the pile of purple spiked animals. They stopped where they were and looked up. The glow from their eyes dissipated almost immediately. They moved away cautiously as something reached down. A hand covered in armor grabbed the gun and lifted it up. The animals moved away even further as a newcomer inspected the gun. In the reflection, the face could be seen. It looked just like the same man from before, only with solid white eyes. It took a few steps, some yellow substance dripping off. This soon stopped. It saw something move in the corner of its eyes. It looked over and briefly saw a person dressed in red and yellow armor running on the platform above. The clone gave a soft scowl and uttered an icy phrase. "Samus Aran." Well, that was a pretty good shock-ending creepypasta, or mindfuck creepypasta. And was it good? In my opinion, yeah. See, my rating system for these is how long they are, but really not just length, since you can make anything super duper long and it could still be complete shit, but rather how well it builds itself in the entire process, and this one did quite well. See, not until the end did I get what game was being referenced. I had some thought about some other games through the whole thing, even pulling BioShock into the whole affair, but that's how I rate them. Seeing how well they build up and how long it takes to figure out the source material it derives from. Now again, I had some thought this was about Metroid Fusion specifically, especially with the orange liquid seeping into the body, the X-parasites, and Samus X, the white marble-eyed Samus. Now the author says this is about Other M, really a theory about it specifically, but I see more fusion in it, but that's not the whole point. Well, I wasn't really expecting this to be a Metroid mindfuck creepypasta and expected some other games. And was it as vague and good as Zorax? No. And I sort of use this as a template for these kind of creepypastas. In my opinion, though, it was pretty damn close to it, and I guess what makes Zorax so good is the extreme vagueness and the somewhat borderline references to Zelda at times, Deku being an example. But here it's somewhat the same, and the setting and environment have their own unique charm, like Zorax did. And I guess if this creepypasta really did take some key elements away, such as the white marble eyes or the detailing of armor color, which in my opinion is sort of a dead giveaway, I would personally try to restrict using color as much as possible, because it can really, link a reference, a deep reference, into the mind of the reader. I mean, if you've played a game, for example, you could really link the color to a certain character or place, if you will, and I would just try to restrict it, because like I said, it could, in my opinion, it could be a really dead giveaway at times. But really, if these things were restricted, and if the creepypasta, was a tad longer, with more events, vague enough to help further the link to the source material, Metroid in this case, it could be as good or even better than Zorax. In the end, what game were you thinking as this was being read? What would you rate this creepypasta, and what would you change to make it better, and what creepypasta would you like me to do next? This has been another episode of Haunted Gaming, and if you like what you saw, then like, comment, and subscribe. This is me, Mudahar, and I am out.